So the RAND Corporation, along with CPC Foundation, offered up a set of skills. I think there are 9 on this list. And they've said in so many important ways that this is what you're going to need in the days, weeks, and months ahead. And I show this to my students and say, this is not only what you're working on, but this in part is a goal for you as you make yourself ready for a global environment. Tops on the list, well-developed cognitive skills, the ability to think through a problem, the ability to analyze, produce solutions. So I tell my undergrads, as well as my MBAs, congratulations, the Notre Dame admissions office has already stamped you as having well-developed cognitive skills. But as you know, and I've learned over the last 50 or 60 years, those are skills you have to keep using. You have to keep working on problems, thinking through issues, analyzing the matters before you. Stay at it. Social skills become important, and as society reemerges from hunkering down, we frankly are going to enjoy the company of other people. But social skills exist in a virtual environment as well. It's the ability to interact with other people comfortably, to know who they are, and to be able to deal with them even if they're not in our demographic, if they're of a very different age, if they are of a different social class or income set, if they work in an entirely different world, meaning my dealing with engineers or you're dealing with accountants. I don't mean to select extreme examples, but they have their own preferences, they have their own ways of working, and social skills means getting along with and understanding how they think, as well as showing what our preferences are. Knowledge of the corporate culture is important, and I tell my students, you really need to know as much about that as possible before you get into an organization. It's difficult to know it from the outside, but I will say this. The organization is not going to adapt to suit you. You need to adapt to it, or better yet, get on the right horse to begin with. Changing your values to suit them is going to be painful. Find an organization whose values parallel your own. It'll be a much easier ride. On-the-job training, of course, will continue. People say, well, I'm up to date on software. I know the algorithms. And my answer to that is 5 years from now, those algorithms will be well out of date, and you'll be supervising people working with algorithms that you don't understand. You need an academic discipline, and I would say developing more than one is important. More than just skills, you need ways of seeing the world and ways of knowing. And this is a matter of continual learning. When I left Notre Dame as an undergraduate in 1968 with a Bachelor of Business degree, I naively believed that I knew most of what I would need to know to work an entire career. It turns out that wasn't even close to being true. What is really true now is that the rate of change is faster than we could ever have imagined. Stay with it. Figure out what it is you absolutely need to know, focus on that, learn that, and then, if you would, think about those things you can safely abandon. Tell yourself, this is knowledge that belongs to other people's disciplines. There is some of it I need to know, but frankly, I can't be an expert in everything. Develop your specialties and keep working. You'll also need professional work experience. That's either part of your skill set now or will be soon. And cross-cultural experience. I tell my students, frankly, look, that spring break trip to China is not going to result in a job in Shanghai. It may result in a job that takes you to Shanghai on occasion, but the Chinese are not going to hire you to run part of their enterprise any more than we're going to hire a foreign national at a very young age to be in charge of anything in the United States. What we want is enough experience to be comfortable and to be able to learn in other people's spaces, and then eventually, indeed, we could run someone else's enterprise if it is a global enterprise and if it has the kinds of products and the kinds of services that we've trained ourselves to produce. Foreign language, I would tell you that would be one of my top lists for young people, even middle-aged people. Learning a foreign language is really not as difficult as you imagine. It's tougher. It is much tougher, particularly if you haven't been raised in that environment, if you're not immersed in that environment. Finally, personal traits and attributes come into this, and your flexibility, your willingness to respond on short notice, to respond to changing corporate goals, corporate outcomes, I think will put you in good stead.